Hello and welcome to Straight Dude Date Night, a show where two straight dudes go on a date and they review it. My name is David Stallings and I am one of these straight dudes.
I am Ricky Rivera, the other straight dude.
Today, first off, no experts today because the only expert we need in the room is Ricky for the big basketball movie that we just saw, Air.
Space Jam 2.
Space Jam 2, the sequel.
We finally saw it.
Finally got around to it. Quite different. I thought LeBron James was going to be in it. Turned out not at all.
Yep. No, we saw Air. We saw
Air, the new Amazon Studios movie that they put out exclusively in theaters, which is a wild move from Amazon, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's probably something there about that.
Probably trying to move into being like a larger competitor as a like in the theater or movie space right now.
Yeah.
Because there's like, I don't know. There's like a difference. I think it's a difference with like awards where like if you're a streaming movie, and this may have changed in recent years, but I remember there being a debate on like, well, if it's a streaming movie, it doesn't qualify for certain awards. That might be what was going on here. Or I don't know.
Maybe they just realized nobody uses Prime Video.
I mean,
Might be a bold statement, but I feel like people forget that they get Prime Video with Prime.
Yeah, I've definitely used Prime Video. They have some solid shows, I would say.
They got some good stuff on there. It's pretty slept on, but like it's also kind of hard to use because like you don't know what you can watch with Prime Video and then what you have to buy. I hate that. I hate when I see a movie on Prime Video and I'm like, oh, they have that on here? Heck yeah. And I click on it. It's like rent or buy. And I'm like, bro, what?
Prime Video is typically my option that I go check when I'm looking for a movie that's not on Netflix or Hulu. And then I go, I do have access to Prime Video. Maybe it's on there. And I'll go search it up. And sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. But they're always my third option. Never the first or second. Other than for some shows.
Okay, I know why. Amazon originally planned for the film to get a streaming-only release on Prime Video.
Okay.
The film was screened for test audience and scored much higher than anticipated, prompting Amazon to give the film a theatrical release.
Wow.
So it just tested really well. People just really loved it and said, hey, that's good enough to be in the theaters.
That's interesting that's how that process goes.
Yeah.
And that makes me think less of like streamer movies or streamed movies in general, right? Because that's saying like, okay, for a streamed movie, the expectation from the focus groups that are going to test this is that it's going to be like average. But since it was really good, we got to go to theaters.
Gotta go to theaters.
That makes me think a little bit less of the streaming platforms if that's the process we go through.
Yeah,
that's great.
What a wild process.
Before we get into our review, I'll do a little summary of this movie. I probably won't do justice to like actual basketball stuff, but we'll figure it out.
You know, Netflix had a streaming movie. Sorry, I think
they have several streaming movies.
But in theater, Glass Onion was a Netflix movie, and that was in the theater.
Yes. Did that end up being? No, it streamed like 2 months after, right?
Yeah, we saw it as an exclusive like theater run.
Yes.
The same thing. Somebody said that wow, that is
well,
so
that was
weird.
that was like, hey, for like this weekend, we are putting this in theaters, right? That seemed like a special event as opposed to like Air is in theaters for the entire month of April, right?
Something. I just thought it was that is a really weird thought to think of. You might have just cracked a whole new case for streaming platforms. Okay, so it's good. Let's put it in theaters.
Yeah, if it's really good, if a streaming platform, if Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, whatever, they're like, hey, we're releasing a movie in theaters. Everyone needs to know, okay, this one's a banger.
Interesting.
That's what that means.
It just automatically devalued your entire platform.
That's reading that, you bringing that up, that's the first thought I had was okay, so every other movie you put on your platform is bad, is what you're saying, or average?
I mean, I've never seen an Amazon original movie. The only one I know of was the Tomorrow War, and I know that did terrible.
That was a while ago, right?
That was the Chris Pratt.
Oh, yeah, that was Chris Pratt.
Yeah, I heard that did really bad.
I haven't heard that much about it, but yeah, that's totally, that assessment is totally devaluing their own stuff. Yeah.
Totally off topic, but man, that really does.
No, that's just
that's interesting.
If you go see this movie, the first thing you're gonna before the movie even starts and they're showing all the production companies, they show Amazon Studios, and I promise everyone in the theater who goes to see this is going to be like, huh, I've never seen that before.
Everybody in the theater did.
Everyone was like, wow,
Yeah,
cool.
the guy next to me was like, Amazon made this. Like,
What are
everybody
they
was
doing?
confused by that.
That's insane. This doesn't happen. Probably going to happen more. But anywho, so jumping into the synopsis of this film. This movie, all based on a true story. It centers around, first off, takes place in the year of our Lord, 1984.
Yep.
Back in prehistoric times.
Ancient.
Civilization hadn't been founded yet.
Ugh, people had phones and cars.
Oh, looked awful. Terrible. Can't imagine living in that. Movie centers around Nike at this time. They being the worst competitor in the basketball shoe industry, basically floundering and probably going to lose that division soon unless a solid deal comes through. And in general, they showcase that there's a whole process of every year trying to sign different athletes to basically be sponsored by them with different contracts to represent their shoes. And Sonny, Matt Damon's character, who's basically like a
talent scout for the
like
company.
a talent scout. Yeah, he's supposed to be some kind of basketball guru. Ends up coming up with the idea of, why don't we create a deal with an athlete that instead of they just wear our shoe, we create a line specifically for the athlete and we market the athlete instead. Which is how the idea of Air Jordans came up, and the whole movie centers around the business side, the businessmen trying to close the deal with Michael Jordan and his family to be contracted with them. It's extremely fascinating what all occurred for this movie, and that Michael Jordan did not even want to be in the room with Nike when this was going down. Sonny had to track them down and really beg them to come to the table at all. And it ultimately resulted in Nike becoming the largest competitor in this space, grossing, they said at the end of the movie, Nike grosses over $4 billion a year because of this deal from 1984. Wild.
Changed the game. I mean, it was the first athlete in the shoe game to be promoted. Like, because everybody was, back then it was just, oh yeah, Larry Bird, he wears Converse. He's sponsoring Converse. You know what I mean? It's like Larry Bird's like, hey, check out these Converse. And then it shows the commercial at the end for, this really famous commercial for Nike. It's the Like Mike.
Yeah.
Nike's whole motto was like, we want to be like Mike.
Yeah.
These shoes make me be like Michael Jordan. Not Michael Jordan is trying to sell me Converse. It's, I'm going to buy Nike so I could be like Michael Jordan.
Yeah. These are the shoes that were specifically made for Michael Jordan so he can be awesome on the basketball court.
If I wear them too, I could be just like Mike.
Yeah. Which, like, that's
Change
not
the game.
That's not like a crazy idea, but that like completely revolutionizing what that industry was doing. Just mind-boggling to me.
The first company to truly invest in the NBA, and it's paid off because Adidas used to be the sponsor for everything NBA, like even like the jerseys, but it's all Nike now.
Yeah,
everything is Nike for even on the jerseys, the logos. I mean, back in the day they used to have Adidas on them. Now it's all Nike logos.
Yeah,
so it definitely changed everything. I mean, even now thinking about somebody being sponsored by Adidas, you're like, that's kind of lame.
Yeah, that was I'm not a basketball head, and for some reason I've just been like, yeah, it's just Nike. Nike's just the people for the them bringing up like Converse and Adidas were in this industry trying to get basketball players. It's kind of, to me, I was like, that's fake. That doesn't make any sense to me. But
bro, Air Jordan, that shoe brand is so big that it's a competitor to Nike. Isn't that wild? Like,
yeah.
Like people literally are signed to the Jordan brand, which is wild to think that they have to, at some point you can decide between Jordan or Nike. It's the same thing. Yeah. But like that's how big that shoe became, that it literally just branched off into its own dynasty of like, oh yeah, I'm a Jordan like athlete. Like people have their own Jordans, custom whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's Nike owns pretty much all athletes now. There's like a few Puma. There's rare Puma, but there's like a couple. Under Armour's pretty decent.
Mm.
Adidas is here and there. And there's like one athlete that's sponsored by New Balance, and that's hilarious to me.
I thought it was interesting that they went into it at the end a bit of talking about a big part of this deal was that when Michael Jordan came to the table and wanted to accept their offer, he added a caveat of, hey, if you're gonna put my name on everything, then I get a cut of everything you sell, which was also an unprecedented move by Michael Jordan on his part. Worked out really well for both parties, but it was interesting. There's one scene between Matt Damon and Ben Affleck where Ben Affleck, who's the CEO of Nike in the movie, is talking about he's not necessarily worried, but having the realization of how this deal is going to affect everyone,
every company,
that
not just his company. He's ruined it for everybody.
Everyone's going to have to deal with this now of like, oh, Michael Jordan got to have a deal where he gets a cut of everything. And now all other athletes who you are using to sell your products, they're going to want a cut of everything too. And it's like they showed at the end that apparently Sonny was one of the key witnesses in 2014 regarding all the NCAA stuff of wanting to, if you're going to use college athletes to market your stuff, they should also get a cut of it. And I remember that debate happening, and I remember hearing all about it at the time. That was wild.
That was a no-brainer. I mean, here was the problem with that whole debate was it didn't matter whether it was allowed or not. It was happening regardless. So you might as well just make it a thing that's allowed.
Yeah.
I think that was like, for me, who's like following along with that, it was like, bro, like athletes are getting paid under the table in college no matter what. Somebody's going to find a way to get paid.
Yeah.
Just make this a thing. Like, why can't college athletes be promoted?
Yeah.
They're doing all this work to be, an athlete and try to go to school.
Yeah.
Let them be sponsored. In fact, some of them, they don't even care about the school aspect of it. They're here because they're going to the NBA.
Right.
This is just a mandatory stop.
Well, I remember hearing, like, this may have been a few years ago of this coming up, of like, I remember hearing an argument of like, well, if we're paying the students, then they're not going to care about their education at the college. And it's like, bro, if these athletes are in contention for the NBA and they're big enough that they're getting the people want to like sponsor them, then they don't need to. They don't need this. They don't need the school experience anymore. They're going to get paid millions of dollars off of this.
Yeah. They don't need the schooling. I mean, it's
unless they truly care about the degree that they're going for. For some of them, it's just straight up like, while I'm here, I get to be on a D1 team or whatever.
The real reason why that's a rule in the NBA is that you have to have a year in college is because NCAA would lose millions of dollars if it wasn't a rule. They would lose a lot of money. They're gonna just sugarcoat it with they don't get an education. But bro, the rule is that you only need to be there 1 year. Yeah. What kind of education are you gonna get out of a year of college?
Your first year at college, I could say worthless.
Yeah.
Worthless.
You're gonna do all the intro to college classes. You're gonna have a computer class that you're not even doing.
The whole first year of college is just you trying to understand how to be an adult and try to live on your own, and also balance school with that. And after that year, you're going to forget everything in the classes you took of that first year.
Yeah, if you're able to do 1 year in college and you're going to go to the NBA, you're going to make at least $1 million. Mm-hmm. You'll be okay.
You're going to be great.
You could go back.
Yeah, you could go back.
It's not like college is done. Like, oh, I'm 40 and retired from the NBA. What am I going to do?
Because, a lot of people I knew my first year of college, all they were trying to do was like, I don't know if I'm going to stick around in college. I better go party as often as I can. I'm going to go to every party I can find. We'll see how the classes go from that. We'll figure out the fallout later. Maybe I can just drop out and it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
And that plenty of them did. Or they stuck around. Like, it's fine. Yeah. For some of them, it's just like, I'm here to party.
I'm here to party.
I already have a plan set up. It's fine. It's like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Now, this movie, I am not a basketball head at all. I know nothing about basketball. I don't watch basketball. I don't remember I remember the last time I watched a full basketball game. It was at your house like a month ago.
Yeah, probably with me.
Yes. But so the only thing I was struggled with in this movie was like as they were trying to set up the environment of what was going on, of them trying to get a deal with an athlete. In the very beginning of the movie, I was just getting confused.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah,
they were trying to talk all about these different players and their stats and everything. I'm like, I was having thoughts of like, I don't know if I'm gonna understand this movie.
Yeah, there is some early on, like you're saying, like setting it up. But I think that shows though how big and how good Michael Jordan was. Mm-hmm. Is that when they mention his name, you at least know, like, well, that's a big deal. Yeah, Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan. Like he was the greatest ever. Mm-hmm. For a lot of the people who are into the NBA though, or maybe you're not really that into basketball, but back in the day, in the 80s or 90s, you watched a thing or two. You'll appreciate some of like the jokes that they make in there, talking about like, they're showing old Converse commercial, which is hilarious because thinking of Converse being the sponsor of the NBA is absolutely silly.
Yeah, that was super weird.
Yeah, so that, and then they mentioned some of the other people in Jordan's draft class, which is that's an old head kind of. Those were old head kind of jokes. Okay, like talking about that draft class and Olajuwon, whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that all that kind of stuff is funny, but for the most part, though, I feel like most of the movie, you don't need to be a big basketball person to get past you just got to get past the first 15, 20 minutes.
Not even 15, 20 minutes, yeah. I would say. It's like 5 or 10 because I know exactly what happened for me watching it. It was the first couple scenes as they're trying to set up the world and what we're dealing with. The one scene in particular that was the one I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to understand this movie, was two. It was Sonny talking with Howard in his office at first. Howard was like another manager of the basketball division, right?
Yeah.
So they were working together trying to figure out who they're going to try and get a deal with. They started talking a lot about the deals they've made. I had no idea what was going on. Yeah. And then the next scene is Sonny involved with Jason Bateman, who's named Rob, in a meeting with a bunch of other businessmen, identifying the athletes they want. And both those scenes back to back, I was like, I'm not going to survive.
I don't know what this is. Yeah.
But the next scene was Jason Bateman and Matt Damon having a fight in the bathroom. Amazing. Over like the practicality of all of it and just what all of that meeting stuff actually meant. And that scene was just perfect.
Charles Barkley could be good. Yeah. It could be. Why didn't you speak up?
We might as well just sign my mom at this point. Like,
yeah.
And she's dead. So,
yeah.
That whole scene of just two great actors just like yelling at each other. Immediately, I was like, I like this movie. I like this. I understand now. And then following that, we had another great scene of Matt Damon and Ben Affleck having a variation of this same conversation, but Ben Affleck is the CEO of the company.
Yeah.
And both of those scenes, I was like, this is fun, getting to see all these great actors working together. That was a highlight for me.
Yeah, that was, dude, the acting was so fun. Like, these guys were just having a good time. You could tell they were all into it, making it.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is how unique each of the characters were. Like, they're all just businessmen. But even when we saw the photos of who they were really based on at the very end, kind of an eclectic group of individuals that all were a part of this real story.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I mean, I don't know much about the Nike CEO. I don't know much about like their start. I'm more of a basketball head. I'm not a big shoe guy. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure there's people listening. I actually know people listening are big shoe heads and know more about it. But
go see the movie then. If you're a big shoe head, you'll like it.
Yeah. I think that was pretty funny. Like, I mean, that is true. And Nike was the most like outstanding out of all of them because they were just so weird. Mm-hmm. Like those other brands were corporate. You know?
Yeah. Ben Affleck, though, as that CEO, he was probably, I would dare to say, probably the best part of this movie. 'Cause he was so...
When he walks in the meeting, hey, CEO, and then they interrupt. He's like, what I was going to say before I was interrupted, I am the CEO here at Nike, $1 billion company. We're worth $1 billion.
Ben Affleck portraying this very odd, insecure CEO who's under pressure a lot and is also now a like super big what is it? Like a super big Buddhist as well, of just like, I'm trying to channel my energy here. It was a very just unique character to see Ben Affleck playing that I had no idea I was going to get from this movie. And it was hilarious.
I loved it, man. It was like seeing old Ben Affleck again, like, and Matt Damon, like, because Ben Affleck's gotten so much flack over the last few years. I mean, just Batman ruined him, bro. I feel like once he took on Batman, it was just like all you ever heard was just terrible things about him.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was cool to see him in a role where I was just like, yeah, you're killing it. Yeah, I forget that's even you.
I definitely think that over the past few years, anytime that, because I think there was like one other movie that came out a couple years ago that starred Ben Affleck. I don't think it did very well. But the main thing people talk about now with Ben Affleck is Batman. It's
Suicide Squad,
and it's
Batman
just like
versus Superman, like all that stuff just got
and it's like
obliterated.
Bro, just what an awful set of movies to be a part of. But one of my favorite movies is Argo, which he directed. I believe he directed or wrote it in 2015. And that movie, oh my gosh, I love Argo. I think that movie's dope. So it was nice to actually see him in like a good movie again, and him just portraying a unique character. Oh my gosh, that was so fun.
He definitely has to have had love for basketball and the shoe to do a movie like this, because I feel like this just doesn't get to go to any, like, a movie like this doesn't just get to go to somebody who's like, I don't really watch basketball, I just know it's a cool story, I'm gonna make it. Like Ben Affleck, I'm sure, is into shoes like that. To have wanted to make a movie like that's a good story.
Well, you were telling me before the pod that as you were looking up facts about this movie, that Ben Affleck was apparently constantly reaching out to Michael Jordan on facts about like, how did this actually go down?
Yeah,
are we portraying this correctly? What actually happened at this moment in it? Which is,
I love that. I love when movies can do that. The one movie that comes to mind that did this really well too was Wolf of Wall Street. They did the exact same approach where the actual Wolf of Wall Street wasn't necessarily involved in the movie, but Leonardo DiCaprio and the director for that movie sat down with him multiple times and were like, what are we lying about here? Which I could talk about that movie all day. There's a lot of good facts, but we're talking about Air today. Same thing happened here. Ben Affleck was in, Michael Jordan didn't necessarily have a hand in this movie, but he did sit down with him multiple times to make sure they were getting their stories right. And he was paying respect. I love that. I love it when movies can do that.
Well, I think with like any movie that's based on a true story, the first thing I go look up afterwards is how accurate is the movie. How true is this movie? And if the answer I get is pretty much not, I actually am upset by it.
Because you're like, why not?
Why not? So you're saying you just grabbed a random event from history and then we dramatized the hell out of it. That's what you're saying, right?
This one was drama enough. I mean, at the time, putting all your eggs in one player who hasn't even played a game was crazy.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because now you have to get in before they play a game. Like that's the rule now. It's like that. That's just how much this deal changed the game for athletes today.
Yeah.
Is like nowadays, if you don't sign an athlete before they play a game in the NBA, you have messed up. Because getting in before is the way to do it.
Yeah. What was interesting to me was I didn't realize how much this movie was going to focus in just on the businessmen.
Loved that.
I thought it was dope. Like that was, for me, I loved that. I thought this movie was going to focus in more potentially on like Michael Jordan himself, and we would see elements of that. But as soon as we started getting a backstory into Jason Bateman's marketing VP character, I was like, wow, we're really going in on these Nike executives right now.
Look, this movie doesn't need to sell Michael Jordan's story, you know his story.
Yeah.
You know Michael Jordan. You know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need the Nike movie to tell you who he is. That's what I loved about this. It was like, no, we don't need to tell you who he is. We're gonna tell you how we got him.
Yeah. Now, at the end of the movie, as is done with many true story movies, they give you a bunch of facts about what happened afterwards and everything. And I want to ask you, Ricky, because the last thing that was said was that Michael Jordan is now the greatest athlete of all time. And I've heard that's a wild statement to make. Your thoughts?
Look, man, everybody has different opinions.
But your thoughts?
Me personally, I think Michael Jordan is the greatest athlete of all time.
Okay.
I think they did say his mentality changed the game of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And my only counter argument is that I think the greatest athlete mentality of all time is Kobe. Nobody compares to him.
Okay.
And like they wait, like I don't know. For me, there's like two different things. It's like accomplishments, everything he did. Michael is a legend.
Yeah.
People are gonna argue LeBron, and it's like, look, LeBron's career is not done. He's still got more to prove.
Yeah.
And when he's done, he probably will take that throne.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, like, I mean, Michael Jordan changed the game for everybody in so many different ways. The man played baseball.
They showed clips of that.
He went and played baseball. He sucked. He was so bad at it. Played golf. Terrible.
Yep.
Came back. Won a ring. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he just came back and said, nah, I'm back.
Nah, yeah.
You take 2 years off of doing the thing you're best at, and then come back and try it again. Mentality wise, though, like, I don't know. For me, I battle back and forth between the two of them because Kobe's mentality was elite.
Yeah.
Next level. Nobody's ever been like that.
Wow. This was a really fun movie to go see. I was excited regardless because, like, the preview gave off a vibe that this movie was going to be very much like Moneyball, if you remember that movie at all with Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
And, like, I went to see that with my dad because my dad's a huge baseball guy, and I love that about him. But for me, I don't know anything about baseball or the stats or anything, but I remember seeing that movie as a kid and being like, I love all the business happening. I love all the math and all the strategy that they're using. So having that experience with my dad of like, I remember how excited my dad was of just like, it's a baseball movie. I love this. And I think he enjoyed all the stat stuff too. But going to see this with you, who you are a big basketball head, and I'm enjoying it because I'm like, I love all the business.
Yeah.
I love all the business going on. This is great.
Yeah.
Like this was just a really fun date we went on.
This is great.
Yeah.
It was good for both of us. I was happy to see some of the jokes they made. I mean, I loved the movie in general. Like the business aspect of it was awesome.
I was thinking about this on the drive back too, because I realized this movie kind of had the same marketing in a way as like Amsterdam or Babylon, where a huge component of it was, look at all the actors we have. Yeah. And like we had Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jason Bateman, Chris Tucker, Viola Davis, who was awesome. That's 5 right out of the gate of like names that you probably know a couple of them at least.
You know at least one of the names.
Yeah. This was the first time though that I felt like a movie like that had just a huge, big, like well-known cast actually executed it well.
Yeah, it was amazing. This was the best out of all the movies we've seen with big casts.
Yeah.
That like actually lived up to it.
Because the previous ones, it felt like they failed to actually utilize everyone, or they were just simply there for the marketing.
Yeah,
right?
They were just there for the marketing. They played a weird role. Just felt like they were there because they got paid to be there. This one, everybody felt like they truly enjoyed it.
Yeah, because every scene we got to see of 2 of these big names together, going at it or having a conversation or whatever, was like it's not crazy what they're talking about, but just getting to see these actors perform with each other was so delightful. And every time we got to see that over and over, I was so happy. It was so enjoyable.
Yeah. One of the other things we read too that was really cool about this cast was Michael Jordan. Obviously, we talked about how he had a hand in this. He had 2 requests. Mm-hmm. He said, 1, Viola Davis plays my mom.
Yep.
And 2, you got to put Howard in, right? Howard was that was Chris Tucker's character who still runs a piece of the business of Air Jordan to this day. But he was just like, those are my only two things. You got to put him in the movie, even though he wasn't probably a big deal at the time of the deal.
Yeah.
I don't care. Put him in.
That we can dramatize.
Yep.
Put him in.
And Viola Davis has to be my mom.
Yeah.
Like, that is so... Dude, imagine being Viola Davis and just, like, getting the call of, like, hey, we need you to do this movie because Michael Jordan said you have to.
Michael Jordan name dropped you specifically.
Yeah, how cool.
The movie will not be happening unless you sign on.
Yeah, heck yeah. She was probably like, sure, sign me up. Which, another thing that was cool is her husband, Michael Jordan's dad in the movie, is actually her husband in real life.
Yeah.
So that's why the chemistry, because their chemistry flowed really well. It
Yeah,
felt
those
like
two were great.
It felt like an actual married couple. Like, so cool.
Yeah, that was just... All of the acting in this movie was really solid. And
Oh, yeah.
But one thing you said on the way out the door, Ricky, was that you said it so confidently. Jason Bateman was the worst of them.
I was most excited for Jason Bateman out of everybody in this because I love Jason Bateman.
I love Jason Bateman,
And I thought,
bro.
and so that's a bold statement in its own, but let me explain.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Bateman, out of all those, 5 actors we listed, I think if I had to rank him, the worst out of all of them. He still was great.
Uh-huh.
He played the Jason Bateman, just the normal Jason Bateman role he does, which
Yeah.
is fine. But every other actor was that good that it made Jason Bateman feel like he was just the lowest of them all, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That's just a testament to how good everybody else did.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he did bad. I'm saying he was amazing. That's
was-
how good everybody else was.
It was just such a shocking statement to hear from you on the way out the door as you just went, and Jason Bateman was the worst. I was just, how dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you?
How
say-
dare you? I was like, no, like he still did great.
Mm-hmm.
And if he was the only big actor in this movie, I would have been like, yeah, he did great.
Yeah, because I think you were pointing out that like Jason Bateman has a very clear typecast, which is in everything he does, he's just gonna be the normal person.
I felt like I was watching Ozarks at times.
Yep.
That's exactly what I felt like I was
He
watching.
talks the same way throughout everything he does.
I don't care. Just get it done.
Well, if that's
yeah.
Like I see that, but here's another option. Like I think that was the difference between all of these actors is that Jason Bateman really was the only character who I felt like was just kind of playing himself.
Yeah.
In a way, everyone else had to take on a very unique persona. I felt like,
Yeah.
which that's the stuff I love to do. That's the fun stuff. Is
Yeah.
when you have to be someone completely different.
It was wild for me to think that Jason Bateman, he was the one I was looking forward to the most, and I thought everybody else was better than him.
Yeah.
That was crazy to me. Like Ben Affleck, at times I forgot that was even Ben Affleck. He was just so amped up. He almost was comparable as if he kind of felt like he was coked up at times. They never obviously showed that he was on drugs or anything, but at times it just felt like he was just are you on drugs? It
was just such an odd energy that he was bringing in every scene. That wasn't bad, but it was just wow, this character is I've never seen someone like this before. Interesting.
Just do it.
Okay, yeah, just do it. And then talking about, I don't know if this is true of the origin of just do it, but they were saying that the just do it phrase, they're like, yeah, it was from a guy who was about to get executed by a firing squad.
Yeah,
and in his last
yeah.
words, they're like, any last words? And he's like, just do it.
Yeah. It's just so funny.
Yeah. Oh man, this was so good. I had a thought and it's gone. I had a thought I was gonna move to naturally in our conversation, and it just left me.
It was about Jason Bateman, probably.
Maybe.
And now he was still really good. He just, out of all the actors, I was like, yeah, I forgot Jason Bateman. You know what made me realize was when they came back to him later on in the movie, when Matt Damon calls him and he's like, hey, can you come to the bullpen? I thought to myself, I was like, oh yeah, Jason Bateman's here. That's what I thought. I was just I was so into what was going on, the conversation between Matt Damon and Viola Davis. It was so intense, and I was just yeah, I was following along, that when they showed Jason Bateman again, I was like, yeah, I forgot you were here. What's up, buddy?
Yeah.
Like, I like that. I like that you're here.
Yeah, that's good. Because he definitely had a lower role throughout this whole thing of like...
I don't know what his role. I think he was just like the divisional manager.
Well, he was the main marketing person.
That's right. Okay,
what
right.
it was. But they really didn't go into the marketing that much.
Yeah, it didn't need to, man. I mean, marketing, it's Michael Jordan. Markets himself.
This was the thought I had. But because the best character of this movie I don't even know who the actor was, but he clearly stole the show because everyone in the theater enjoyed this person thoroughly. Of the person in R&D basically who makes all of the new shoes.
I think his name was Pete, right?
Well, the character name was Pete, who just for some reason, I don't know if this was just based on the real life person, but they made him have a lisp that was evident, as well as he was actively having a midlife crisis where as a 50-year-old man, he was trying to learn how to skateboard.
Yeah.
And it was just the guy didn't even say jokes at all. He just kept talking kind of awkwardly throughout, and everyone was like awkwardly laughing with him. It was so funny.
Because he was so random. You were like, who are you?
Again, just another, like, if all of this is just based on, like, they were pulling as many true facts as possible out, what an eclectic group.
Yeah, his name is Matthew Mayer.
Is the actor?
Yeah,
Okay.
is the actor. The only thing I've seen him in is Captain Marvel, Norex. He's one of the aliens from Captain Marvel, but like that, even that alone, I don't remember.
That's nothing.
I just remember them having some funny lines here and there, but like I would have never known without looking it up that they were the same person.
Yeah. That, because
He was hilarious, dude.
every character they had in this movie was very well written. And speaking on the writing, you said, bro, who's the writer on this?
His name is Alex Convery.
This guy,
his listings on IMDb? He's done one movie, and it's Air.
How does that happen? Like, because the movie was very well written, and what a great idea that they went into. I'm shocked we haven't seen this before.
Yeah.
But the guy literally has one listing on IMDb, and it's this movie.
It's Air. Yeah.
I have done nothing, and I have listings on IMDb more than that. And that's ridiculous.
It's crazy. Imagine the first thing you do is just Air, you know? Like,
And it just pops off. It's just like, yeah.
Oh, what was your first project? Oh, it was just a movie about Michael Jordan signing with Nike. Like,
Yeah,
no big
Amazon
deal.
picked it up. They took it.
Amazon picked it up. It was directed by Ben Affleck.
And also, it was so good that Amazon had to make the decision to release it in theaters instead of using Prime Video. Like,
so weird.
yeah, that's my first movie that I wrote. It's not that big a deal, but you know, like, I'm kind of getting started as an indie writer.
Yeah, I want to look him up later and try to figure out who this guy is, because it's just out of nowhere. This is the only listing that he has.
I feel like that happens because because there are script writing festivals where you can just submit scripts and have them reviewed, and I feel like that might be how this happened, where he wrote a good enough script and submitted it, and then Amazon picked it up, or he just sold it immediately to him, and it was good enough that they didn't change anything.
Bro, but like the thing for me is like, you wrote this script, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you had to know who Michael Jordan is.
Yep.
To write a movie like this, first and foremost. You have to be a fan of the game, because nobody is just going to start writing a movie about an athlete.
Yeah.
So in some way, he was a sports fan. You know how nerve-wracking it had to be for him to sit there and wait for Michael Jordan to approve his script? Oh, could you imagine just being like, I typed up the script, I sent it to, first off, Ben Affleck, of all people. And then Ben Affleck probably hit him with the message, said, cool, sending this to Mike right now. We'll let you know in a couple days what he thinks. Like, oh my gosh, like that would be surreal.
That's
surreal. Like, imagine that. Like, it just, you write a movie about a person and then that person is reviewing it. Like,
yeah.
So wild to me.
That,
because there's no way they didn't run it by him first.
oh, of course. Well, they probably, like, this script probably ended up in the hands of Amazon. They were like, yes, we want to do it. And then they, in order to get the rights to using Michael Jordan, they had to send it to him and be like, hey, we're going to put this on.
Well, and then even just being like, is this stuff factual? Like, are we following what actually happened? Like, what do you think of the script?
Yeah.
Are we doing your parents justice? Like, you know what I mean? Like if somebody made a movie about me and they start writing about my parents, I got to make sure my parents are portrayed the right way.
Yeah. That's the crazy thing is that, like we said earlier, this movie is not really about Michael Jordan. We don't ever see the actor's face for who plays Michael Jordan. It's not about him. But we end up seeing, we get a lot of interaction from his parents the whole movie. We get to see a lot of them. So that was interesting that was the portrayal we saw, or like the thing that was portrayed more was not on the man himself, but on his parents. That's just interesting.
Yeah, wild just thought. It's so cool. I'm gonna look into this guy more and try to figure out what I know. Mm-hmm. But man, that is so cool just to be like the first thing you write, just goes to Michael Jordan.
Yeah. It was no big deal. It was no big deal. But Amazon had to put it on in theaters.
Yeah, Amazon just thought it was so good.
They thought it was such a banger that they couldn't possibly just limit it to their streaming platform. We had to put it on across the nation, and that's just that was my first one, so I'm trying to write something else now.
He wrote the script because he watched so there's a documentary. You probably wouldn't know this one, but it's called The Last Dance. It's very good. You might, if you enjoyed the movie and you want to learn more about, Michael Jordan, how he was. It's on Netflix called The Last Dance.
Okay.
Really good documentary
Netflix.
Series.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the best sports documentary out there, where they just go into like Michael Jordan, and they film his whole. He filmed his last year with the Bulls, and so it's like interviews of him and his mentality of being the man he is. Talks about his comeuppance and all that. Apparently, the scriptwriter saw that whole documentary and said, "I'm going to write a script about that."
Wow!
It was so inspired by the documentary that he wanted to write this script. Is the reason why. That's what I was just reading. That's insane.
That is so cool, man. Of just having a project end up inspiring you to then make your own project. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty big sports documentary out there, so it's really cool. But that is impressive that he did that.
Do you know when that documentary came out?
Oh, I think like 2018, something like that.
I was going to say, if it was like a few years ago and this guy rapidly wrote it and then the product is out now, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, no, The Last Dance came out, I think 2018.
Man. Yeah, that was... I think the only hindrance in this movie was mainly me kind of freaking out about not knowing basketball at all at the beginning. But that was alleviated pretty quickly, and the rest of this film was just great.
Yeah, I'd heard that before, that the movie doesn't actually center around Michael Jordan a whole lot, and I meant to tell that to you, and I forgot completely.
Well, I just went in thinking hey, there is a small chance that this is going to be a 2-hour event where I have no idea what's going on. That's that can happen. That's a possibility. And if that does happen, maybe I just take a nap and then we do the podcast and I pretend that I watched it.
Pretend I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Just a solo episode of me talking.
Bro, I've had thoughts though of you and I are about to go see a movie and I'm just I am so tired, and there's a part of me if it's a bad movie, I might fall asleep. And if that happens, how do we do the podcast?
Yeah.
How do we do this?
Dude, easy. We do the same thing we did, and I'll fill you in and you tell me if you would have enjoyed it or not.
And my banana review my banana meter at the end is it was, you're right about this and that.
Yeah. I can't think of any movie I've almost fallen asleep. Actually, probably Don't Worry, Darling. I almost fell asleep to that one.
Don't Worry, Darling. That was
awful,
awful, man. It's more like
I thought about that today too, actually, though. If I fell asleep in a movie, what would we do?
Yeah, how would we figure that out? Do we go see the movie again?
It wasn't that I wasn't excited for this movie. I was just so tired.
Yeah, it's more about, I'm thinking more of
I was just so tired.
Being exhausted. Bro, man, this month, dude. How are you doing, Ricky? How are you doing?
I'm good.
You're killing it?
Yeah, we're thriving, doing the best we can do.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Dude, I'm tired all the time.
Same. I've never been a nap guy, but I've ventured into naps recently, and it's life-changing.
Last weekend, I had a short film that I got to be a part of that was up in Cave Creek. And as soon as I got home, I went into my office. I sat down in my chair. I put my legs up on my desk like Ben Affleck was doing in this movie, and I turned on this stream on YouTube, and I was watching it, and I passed out for 2 hours.
Yeah.
In that position in my chair.
Oh, that's the
I've
best.
never had that kind of nap before. And it felt great until I woke up, and then my back was hurting.
Yeah. Then you're like, oh my gosh.
What
year is it?
I'm in that musical right now, bro, and this month has all been rehearsals almost every night, and that's just been. I forgot also that rehearsals means I will be actively moving around and dancing constantly every night, which means I'm working out basically for 3 hours. Did not anticipate that.
Nope.
Not one bit, bro.
Oh, that's a good point, huh? Yeah, you have to actually be like doing stuff.
Yeah, it's not just like, hey, you're gonna show up and we're gonna just work on blocking and stuff. It's a musical, so
it's gonna get more active the closer you get.
Bro, we've started doing. This next week is us officially going through like the entire musical, pretty much every rehearsal, and the first three scenes, I'm already like starting to sweat during it, because there's one song in particular that I am the full-blown lead in it. I am the star of that scene, and I have to do so much. And it's like 15 minutes into the musical, and I'm just like, all right, this is the energy I'm bringing for the rest of this whole thing.
I can't wait to go see it.
Bro, I'm so hyped.
For those that want to see it, hit us up on the Instagram. We'll set you up.
I actually, I guess, I'll sponsor myself, or I'll promote myself. I did actually post on Instagram today about this musical. If you're in Arizona and you want to see me perform in something, go look up my Instagram at David is Stalling, and you can see I put the link and everything for tickets to that. That's coming up soon.
I'm gonna take the poster and I'm gonna put our title over the title.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say Straight Dude Date Night Live. Buy your tickets now down below.
Bro.
That way we have fans showing up thinking they're going to get a live podcast. And it's just you walking out.
It's just the music.
Man Musk. Just shirtless. Lights are all on you. And there's just you singing.
Yep. Yep. Can't wait, bro.
It'll be the live show.
Do we want to... Sorry, I took us on that tangent real quick. Do we want to bring in the Banana Meter?
Yeah, this was a simple movie. Do you have any downs to this movie?
I was thinking about that. I think the only downside I had was the lack of basketball knowledge, which was then alleviated very quickly.
Pretty quickly, yeah.
So, no. Which means, like, it's gonna be...
Right? It's gonna
be real hot. Hold on. We gotta actually have the Banana Meter in here.
Bring him in.
The minions are they're in the doorway, like they're freaking. Banana. Wow. Okay,
guys, come on.
Wow, they're all wearing Air Jordans. Where did you get those? Where they? Hey,
Mike.
Right, but
David, yes, para aquí, yes, a la credit card.
You used my credit card to buy Air Jordans for every minion.
Banana credit card.
Wow. All right. Well, there may not be a podcast anymore after this week.
You might want to check your bank statement.
Yeah. Hey, if this is true,
he's jumping
he jumped
off the table. Look at him. He's like, Mike, wow.
Wow, he actually stopped midair. He's just completely frozen in midair. That's...
Wow. Help.
It's okay.
He's frozen midair. Oh.
This is a stupid show. All right, Banana Meter's in here. Ricky, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really that I didn't like. I mean, it was such a fun movie.
That's the problem.
I think the only time I ever felt like it was weird was some of the song choices for this movie are kind of strange. I forgot. There was a scene. What was it that was playing? It was
there was one scene where the Time After Time song was
that
playing.
was it. That was the one.
But that's like a classic, like, hey, you want some nostalgia right now? We're going to put on what I think is a horrible song.
It was so, like, no, like, don't get me wrong. I know it's really nitpicky. I understand. Mm-hmm. But these are opinions. That's fine. But
we're also right.
It did feel so weird. Like, like the song came on, and I was like, so just like anticipating, like waiting for the phone call, and then time after time comes on. I'm like, this is a weird song to put here.
Here's the reason why, okay? Because they did this throughout the whole movie, and I thought it was hilarious, was that they constantly had to make sure the audience was reminded that we are in the year 1984.
Yeah.
And so they would constantly, the music choices were all based from
DMC.
around like the Stone Age. And then every time they used something that was an archaic invention, like a car phone or like maps, a normal real life map, we had to have a quick view of like focusing in on the item to remind the audience, this is 1984.
Maps.
The internet has not been invented yet. There is no civilization yet. It's a horrible world we live in.
Nothing
at this time.
exists.
Nothing exists.
All we have are thoughts and prayers.
Yep. So I think that was, they kept doing that. And every time I'm like, okay, thank you for the reminder. Yes, we are in 1984.
It was kind of funny. It wasn't necessarily like a bad thing. I just specifically, I think it proves my point because you felt the same way.
Yep.
Without us even mentioning it at all. Mm-hmm. You remembered the song specifically. It was so weird. It felt so out of place. It was so random.
So noticeable. In that moment, like usually, because it was an intense moment, we're waiting for the call from the Jordan family to see if they're going to sign with us.
We just got the greatest speech.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. And then we're literally we're seeing a montage of all the characters going about their days, waiting for the call. And during all of this, the entirety of the Time After Time song is playing. And you're just, the only thing you're noticing is this song.
Yeah, it felt really weird. But, I mean, that doesn't even affect the score. That was just the only weird moment of the movie.
The thing for me with that song, though, is the only thing I can think of is Napoleon Dynamite during it. Because it's so prominent. Isn't it playing at the very end of the movie? When you've seen Napoleon Dynamite, right? I'm pretty sure it's playing at the end of the movie as they're playing tetherball with each other, and the camera for a very long, awkward amount of time is just zooming out.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I can think of with that song now.
I think they played that at the dance too.
Yes.
They played at the dance when she's like, when she comes walking in, hey. Drinking whole milk.
Such a weird movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on.
It was a great movie. I had a good time. I think people who are into basketball are gonna love it. I think if you're not into basketball, but you know the lore, you lived in the 80s. God bless you.
God bless you.
You'll appreciate it. Like ancient dinosaurs who grew up in the 80s are gonna love. They're gonna be like, oh, I remember some of this happening.
Right.
Look, this is just a constant thing. You're just being so mean. We're just kidding. One day we're gonna be the guys who lived in the 20s.
No, I'll never grow up. I'll always be relevant.
Yeah. I thought it was great. I thought all the acting was great. It was a fun movie. It was just a movie, man. Like, it was awesome. It was a good time. It was like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Nothing really felt like we were dragging. We got straight to the points all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit of motivation in there. There was a little bit of like at the end I was like, man, that really is the freaking GOAT. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was cool. That's the thing about sports. That's the reason why people like sports.
That's the thing about
you
sports,
feel motivated
really.
At the end of it.
Right.
You think, man, that's just sheer willpower making you happen here.
Yeah.
For me, I'll probably give Air a 90. I really liked it. I thought it was a great time. I have no complaints, man.
Yeah.
The only weird moment is the time when Time After Time plays. It's the only out of like place moment in this entire movie. But regardless, it was still such a great time. I loved it. 90s
So
lives.
can you? Because I'm trying to think about it. I think I have the answer for this, but I'm curious about your thoughts on it. Why is it not 100? Do we know?
I think we've talked about this before on the podcast, but my reasoning for it not being 100 is, to me, 100 is like I leave the movie
Changed,
motivated to do something, change in some way, and I don't think that that's even a bad thing to say it's a 90.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just, I mean, for me, I'm like, yeah, it's a 90. Like I would watch this movie
it's
again.
It's a really good movie.
I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Was I changed? No. I mean, could there have been things that could have been better? Sure, maybe.
Yeah.
I'd have to get really nitpicky with you to do that.
Yeah.
But 100 for me is like I left the theater like man, that is so good. Like that just was so fun. Like so, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's different. I mean, I guess that's kind of hard to say because the only other 90s or hundreds we've had was Avatar and John Wick.
Of course.
But after leaving those movies, I was like, wow, like that was just like John Wick was just so fun. So fun. There's never a dull moment for 2.5 hours. It's unreal. And then Avatar, I left just like amazed and enthralled.
Yeah.
In this movie, I leave with like, yep, Michael Jordan, man, he's a legend.
It gives me similar vibes to the discussion we had about The Menu back in November, where we had a similar conversation of like, there's nothing bad about this movie. There was a couple weird moments, but we were like, everyone should go see this. It's so good, but it's not 100. I think we rated it like 80. And it was because we're like, it's just solid, but it didn't like, it's not of such a higher echelon that it's like revolutionary, right?
Everybody's idea of a perfect movie is totally different.
True. I think for me with this movie, I'm of the same opinion of like, I think it's really solid and everyone should go see this movie. The thing that makes it stand out is that it does have some motivating elements of it or some lessons in it that are kind of like, one lesson in particular that I don't think comes up often anymore is like we have this thing with our culture right now of like everyone is special and unique, and like that is true, everyone is unique, but they really dove into this movie of like there's a whole speech Matt Damon does to Michael Jordan and trying to sell him on Nike where he's like, hey, everyone in this room is going to be forgotten. We're going to die, and that's it. But there's one person in this room who's going to be immortal, and that's you, because you are extraordinary, and like you have done the great things already, and you're going to do even greater things. And that was just like, wow, that is a good point. Also, little somber to me.
Yeah.
Because, like, facts.
Nobody will know our names, but you will go down forever in history.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little different now with, like, the internet where, like everything you put out on it, like, someday in, like, 100 years, some random person could stumble onto it still. So you're immortal in a way, but not really, because it's, like, just odd.
Yeah.
That was just something that, like, there were good moments and good lessons in this movie that I did feel like impacted me in a way, which would make it that I was going to say 90 as well. Like that feels like a perfect score for this movie.
It's a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fun. Like that's a good time. I think what makes The 100 for me too is like visually stunning as well.
Yeah.
As to where this is just a very simple movie. I loved it. It was a great time.
I think it worked really well in the simplicity of it. Cause I also thought at some point we were going to, like, there's going to be a scene where we're watching him on the court or something like that.
Didn't need to. Didn't need to sell you on who Michael Jordan was. We know who he is.
The entire movie, the only sets they use are just businesses, just corporations.
The whole movie, I mean, it tells you right there in the speech when he says, we're all going to be forgotten, but you'll be around forever. And it's like, that's why we didn't focus on Michael Jordan in this movie. Nobody cares about the Michael Jordan aspect of it. Like, the whole movie is about... nobody cares about the other people, so that's what we're going to shine it on. And these other guys, the ones who made the deal happen. Because imagine being to make that deal.
Which is a bit ironic in that speech, because the person who made the deal, Sonny, is the one saying that while we are watching a movie that literally does immortalize this deal.
These guys,
and the people involved. I thought that was great. Yeah. Good 90s solid. This was just good.
I love that rating there.
Great movie,
and
man.
You know, for people who think why not just make it 100, go watch it for yourself and you tell us what you think.
Yeah, you'll understand.
Everybody has their own thoughts and opinions, man. We're just giving you ours.
But ours is correct.
And ours is correct.
Ours is correct 100% of the time.
100% of the time. We're basically the new Oscars.
I mean,
just start doing them.
Last episode we had, we were called out of like, you guys are the snobs now.
We were snot. Yeah, I know. I heard that. I heard about it. But you know what? We're gonna beat the allegations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's just look. Now that Colton's gone, it was just a Nicolas Cage movie. Man. It's fine. Relax. It's not life changing.
Guys, relax. Just relax. It's fine.
I was told we did miss apparently there was a lot of Easter eggs in that movie, which I think just goes to show that Renfield was not for us from the get go.
It was not meant for us.
It was not meant for us.
And
because
people
first thing about Dracula is I don't know.
Dracula exists. It's just, but I don't know.
I don't know
who
that is.
It's not a good movie. I'm going to stand by that. Thank you so much for listening to Straight Dude Date Night. We do hope you enjoy this week's episode. As always, we have all our social media and we post shorts and we have been posting the entire episodes on YouTube as well, if you're into that. So subscribe there. You can check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. If you haven't already, give us a review on Apple Podcasts or give us a follow on Spotify. Either of those would be great. And tell a friend about this show.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, if this is a wild recommendation, but if you want to see me in a musical soon, go look up @DavidIsStalling on Instagram, and you can see my posts that I put up about the show that I'm doing very soon in May. So huge. Ricky, like I said earlier, man, just finally getting to see you in your element, just getting to finally use your basketball head. Because I don't ever let you talk about that ever. So this was your only time to finally let that out today and in the theater and in this episode. So I was happy to do that for you, and I hope you appreciate and are thankful that I've allowed you to do that today.
Dude, I appreciate you letting me do it. I could sit here and talk about it all day. I won't, because I bet you most people on here don't want to. We had to watch a later screening of the movie because I was watching a basketball game.
Yeah, I figured that was
This is all I do. This is the only thing I'm into that none of my friends are into, so I have all this knowledge banked up.
You're wearing a Suns hat right now.
So if you're a fan of basketball out there and you want to talk shop, hit me up on the Instagram.
Yeah, bro. Just hit up Ricky. Just message the Straight Dude Date Night Insta, and Ricky will respond about basketball stuff.
Maybe not now, but maybe one day we'll do a basketball game as the date night, and I'll take you.
I have thought about it. It's Straight Dude Date Night. We can still do whatever we want for episodes.
I would love to.
Yeah,
I would love to do that. Not right now because playoff tickets are a couple $100, and I'm not. It's not that worth it.
No,
but maybe next season.
Yep. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for listening. We do hope you enjoy. Have a great day. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye.